What would you do if the person you trusted most revealed their true colors in your darkest hour? For me, that moment came 6 months ago, when my father's death left a void in my heart and an unexpected fortune in my hands. I thought I knew my husband, Mark, the man I'd loved for 7 years, but grief has a way of peeling back masks. This is the story of how I turned betrayal into a reckoning one he never saw coming. My father was my rock, a quiet man who built a small empire from a single hardware store. When cancer took him, it wasn't just the loss that crushed me, it was the weight of his legacy. He left me everything, the business, the house, and a trust fund worth millions. I was still reeling, sitting in his old study, surrounded by his books and the scent of his pipe tobacco, when Mark's tone shifted. "We need to talk about the money," he said, his voice sharp, like a knife slicing through my fog of grief. I looked at him, expecting comfort, but his eyes were cold, calculating. "It's ours now, Sarah. We should sell the business, cash out the trust. Live the life we deserve." I blinked, stunned. The business was my father's pride, employing dozens of people in our small town. Selling it felt like selling his soul. But Mark pressed, his words cloaked in false concern. "You're not cut out to run it. Let's be practical." Practical. The word stung. I'd spent years learning the business at Dad's side, but Mark never noticed. He saw me as a means to an end, a key to a vault. I nodded, swallowing my hurt, and said, "Let me think about it." That night, alone in our bed, I realized the man I married wasn't who I thought. But I wasn't the fragile widow he assumed, either. Over the next weeks, Mark's demands grew bolder. He'd bring home real estate brochures for beachfront villas, talk about yachts, and dismiss my father's employees as dead weight. Each word was a brick in the wall between us. I played along, nodding, smiling, while inside, a plan took root. I wasn't just grieving, I was strategizing. If Mark thought he could bully me into giving up my father's legacy, he was about to learn who he'd married. I started by visiting the hardware store, where I met Clara, Dad's longtime manager. She was in her 60s, with a sharp mind and a sharper tongue. "Your husband called," she said, her eyes narrowing. "Wanted to know about our revenue. I told him to ask you." My stomach churned. Mark was already digging, assuming I'd crumble. Clara leaned closer, her voice low. "Your dad always said you had his fire. Don't let that man snuff it out." Her words lit a spark. Clara wasn't just an employee, she was family, one of the many Dad had cared for. I confided in her, and she became my ally, my confidant. Together, we began to unravel Mark's intentions. The twist came when I found the letter. Tucked in Dad's desk, hidden beneath a false bottom, was an envelope addressed to me in his handwriting. My heart raced as I opened it. Inside was a note, short but piercing. "Sarah, trust your instincts. The business is yours, but so is the choice. If he's not the man I hoped, protect what matters. Love, Dad." With it was a second document, a codicil to his will, naming Clara as a co-trustee of the business. Dad had known I'd need someone, even if he hadn't foreseen Mark's betrayal. That letter was my lifeline, a reminder that my father's faith in me was stronger than Mark's greed. Clara and I devised a plan. I'd let Mark think he was winning, agreeing to meet with his chosen buyer, a slick developer named Greg who wanted to turn the store into condos. Mark was giddy, oblivious to my late-night meetings with Clara, where we pored over financials and drafted a new structure for the business. I wasn't selling, I was fortifying. We secured the trust fund, redirecting it into a foundation to support the employees and their families. The business would stay, but it would evolve modernized, employee-owned, untouchable. The day of the meeting with Greg, Mark was insufferable, preening in his suit, already spending the money in his head. I played the part of the reluctant widow, signing papers with trembling hands. But the documents weren't what he thought. Instead of a sale agreement, they were legal notices transferring control to the foundation. Greg, it turned out, wasn't just a developer, he was an old friend of Clara's, in on the plan. When Mark realized the deal was a sham, his face twisted with rage. "What is this, Sarah?" he spat. I stood, steady, and met his eyes. "This is me protecting what's mine." "You wanted the money, Mark?" "I wanted Dad's legacy." He stormed out, threatening lawyers, but I was ready. The codicil and Clara's testimony ensured the business was locked tight. The trust fund was untouchable, its funds now dedicated to scholarships and community projects. Mark had no claim, no leverage. I filed for divorce the next week, my heart heavy but my resolve unbreakable. Clara stood by me, her gruff warmth a balm for my wounds. "Your dad would be proud," she said, squeezing my hand. In the months that followed, I rebuilt. The store thrived under the new model, its employees now partners, their loyalty fierce. I found purpose in the foundation, honoring Dad's values by giving back. Mark faded into a bitter memory, his threats empty. I learned to trust again, not in a man, but in myself, in Clara, in the community Dad had built. Looking back, I see the woman I was, grieving, betrayed, but never broken. Mark thought he could exploit my pain, but he didn't know the strength Dad had instilled in me. The inheritance wasn't just money, it was love, trust, and a legacy of doing right. I protected it, not just for me, but for everyone Dad cared about. And in that fight, I found my real plan, to live a life true to his memory, and to mine.